The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not those of Rain International and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Rain International. Perspectives and testimonies given during this podcast are those of the speakers and not Rain International.
This
is the Healthy Soul Podcast. Healthy Soul Podcast, presented by independent distributors. Independent distributors of Rain International.
Hi, I'm Janette Smith, and welcome to the podcast. We're so glad you joined us today, and we will be giving you all the tools you need to make better decisions about your health. Our special guest today, Dr. Susan Bastian, is a whole food educator and integrative holistic health and nutrition practitioner, and she's going to help give us the tools that will help us move forward to a track of better living. Today's topic, by the way, foods that heal. So send the link to your friends, get them online. Let's move forward toward healthy living. Right now, we're going to head over to Jody Jones for our Healthy News Minute.
The National Cancer Institute launched a study to find new cancer treatments. Traditionally, cancer is labeled and treated by its type and location in the body, but researchers believe that looking at the cancer's genetic makeup may be a more effective way to treat it. If they can determine what feeds and makes the cancer grow, then they can match drug treatments genetically to the cancer to stop its growth. I'm Jody Jones, and that's the Healthy Soul News Minute.
The Healthy Soul Podcast is being presented by independent distributors of Rain International, the world leader in seed nutrition. Maker of Soul, a naturally delicious 2-ounce drink packed with the powerful antioxidants found in non-GMO seeds. Soul, pure wellness.
The Healthy Soul Podcast.
Healthy Soul Podcast.
David Person, the producer for the Healthy Soul Podcast, joins us now. Dave, great to have you with us.
Great to be here, Janette.
Yeah. So really interesting information on the study and the research for cancer. And, you know, it was really very important to me. But what were your thoughts on the topic?
Well, you know, I don't think that we often think about cancer as something that has a genetic makeup. Mm-hmm. And for the Healthy Soul Podcast, I think it's important because what we believe is that through diet and exercise and other things, you can have an impact at the genetic level.
Absolutely.
So I think that was really important information that Jody shared.
Yeah, and I said it's important to me because, you know, I can speak firsthand to this, having been a cancer survivor. And I realized in my 20s how important not only eating is, but also the energy that you bring to your body. Mm-hmm. Stress, how that plays into your body.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so just learning to do what's right. We don't regard our bodies as this living, breathing instrument. You know, we just kind of hop in it every morning, jump up and get on our way. And we treat our cars sometimes better than we treat our bodies, because if the oil, you know, indicator says, hey, you're low, you'll go handle that, or, you know, your engine's going to fall out. But when our body says, hey, I'm low, or something's happening, or you're getting a signal that something's not right, we don't always pay attention. So I'm excited that people will be getting more information about this, because it's just time we beat cancer. And if you haven't had to deal with cancer yourself personally, like I have, you know someone who has. Your family has been touched by that. So that is, we will continue to follow that, and I'm glad that we got a chance to cover that for you guys right here on the Healthy Soul Podcast. You're going to be bringing some great information as we talk about healing and eating what's good for us, beyond what tastes good for us, but what works good for us. So coming up, you're going to spend a little time with our special guest, Dr. Susan Bastian.
Yeah, Dr. Bastian is a really interesting person who works at the nexus of health and diet and wellness and medicine. Mm-hmm. And she's a proponent, as we are here at the Healthy Soul Podcast, of relying on, you know, natural remedies. And that doesn't mean exclusively,
right?
You know, because obviously there are times in all of our lives where you may need some medical treatment.
Absolutely.
And medical consultation. But what we're talking about here is a lifestyle choice that can help to keep you out of the doctor's office and out of the hospital?
All right, well, let's get into it and keep the mind frame. Eating to live, not living to eat.
The Healthy Soul Podcast, presented by independent distributors of Rain International.
We have found that there are foods that impact the body for the better. And then we also know that there are foods that impact the body for the worse. And it's a very interesting topic to get into. But I always try to relate things to everybody in terms that everybody can understand. And I'll start with one of the things that I always tell people. It's interesting that when a female becomes pregnant and she goes to her doctor, and many doctors, the first thing they tell her, the new mother, is be careful what you eat because everything you eat will affect the development of your unborn child. And we constantly look at all of the messages they send to pregnant moms. Oh, don't eat this, eat this, this will help the baby's development. So we understand that, but then the minute the child is born, and the minute things get changed, and kids start to grow, and adults change, some of that message of knowing what you eat and how it affects the body gets lost in translation. So we know that food that you eat does affect how the body functions. The question is now is how do we take all of that information, navigate the nutritional maze, and actually put it in terms that everybody can understand. And we start with some pretty basic things, too, as far as, what can you eat to keep you healthy? What can you eat to help you lose weight? What can you eat to get rid of pain and inflammation? We have found that there are foods that actually have those positive effects on the human body.
Let's get right to those specific food types or food groups. What are they?
The number one food group that we keep seeing over and over again that works well within the body are basically plant-based foods. All of the things that grow, all of your fruits and vegetables. And there are study after study after study of plant-based food and plant-based diets that have a phenomenal impact on the health of the people who choose to walk down that path. And that's where we try to take that knowledge and, bring that forward to all of our clients and those who are interested in increasing their health.
So just to be clear, Dr. Bastian, you're saying that a person has the potential to live the best, healthiest life if they only eat fruits and vegetables and nuts and grains and no meat, no processed foods. That's what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
I don't know if you heard this or not, but recently Beyonce, the superstar, pop R&B superstar, singer, performer, announced that she has gone vegan. I was very shocked by that.
Why?
Well,
a lot of people are vegan. A lot of people are.
Well, I agree with you. A lot of people are vegan. Actually, you don't know this, but I'm vegan. So now you know I'm vegan. But I'm always a little surprised when I hear about some high-profile person who is making that choice. I guess because so many people have, through the years, have derided that choice.
Well, I guess to me, after all the research that we're currently seeing on the health benefits of eating, some people call it vegan, some people call it raw foods. But I found there's a lot of different terminology out there for moving to a plant-based diet. But since the onslaught of positive research that is now hitting the media on the benefits of moving to that type of lifestyle, I have seen more and more people move to that type of lifestyle. So to me, it doesn't surprise me, particularly when, if you look at the media superstars, they're under so much stress. And just the workload of their day and what they have to deal with, research says that if you move to a plant-based diet, that you can actually decrease your stress levels naturally. There's been an age-old study for years that if you are suffering from anxiety and depression, just peel and eat 2 oranges a day, and that can help your levels significantly minimize the effects of anxiety and depression.
That's
so I
amazing.
can understand, and that's just one study. I have lists and lists of studies that prove that plant-based diets help fight obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and they also increase your lifespan. So to me, I can understand why people would move to that. I'm surprised more and more people have not moved to that type of eating habit.
Well, I certainly agree with you that it's I personally believe it is the diet that makes the most sense and is the healthiest diet. I guess I continue to be surprised, not only because it has been derided. You know, I've heard comedians make jokes about it on national TV or movies or whatever. But I also have, I'm also keenly aware, as I'm sure you are, Dr. Bastian, of the heavy marketing by companies that are deeply invested in people maintaining a meat-based diet. I'm not going to name them, but we know who the companies are. Many of them are fast food companies and so forth. And then, the American culture has been so built around, the meat and potatoes diet. And I think that still resonates for a lot of people who are living today.
Correct. It absolutely does. And again, I have learned that in our realm, although we cannot fight the advertisers who spend billions of dollars a year on advertising their message with their food, our job is to educate those who want to receive the education and let them know that there are options out there. If you are suffering from an autoimmune disease, or if you are suffering from a thyroid disorder, or if you are suffering from chronic pain and inflammation, research shows that a meat-based diet is not going to get you better. And I read research often. I actually read 2 studies this morning on something else I'm working on. But one of the things I have found is that if you look through all of the literature and all of the studies out there and look at the people who have been, I'm going to put in quotes, cured by a change of diet, that change of diet has never been a meat-based diet. It has always been a plant or seed-based diet. I'll just look at diabetes alone. There's a lot of research out there statistically that they have studied in 2008 and 2009. They've done studies that if you eat a vegan or vegetarian-based diet in your lifestyle, you have half. You're basically, your risk is lowered by 50% of ever developing type 2 diabetes. That's a significant number. Mm-hmm. But nowhere is there a study that says if you eat a meat-based diet that you can, that's going to, minimize your risk. I haven't found anything along those lines. But again, even the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee has done studies in 2010 and 2012 where they said a plant-based diet significantly lowers your risk of cardiovascular disease. But consequently, we don't find a reverse study that says if you eat only a meat-based diet, you'll decrease your risk of cardiovascular disease. So I guess that's where I look at the research. There just seems to be more and more research on all the positive benefits of a plant or seed-based diet long-term for long-term health benefits.
Why is it, do you think, that more doctors don't promote this since plant-based diet, or as you said, a seed-based diet, and that's something we're going to have you back to talk about, seed-based nutrition. But a plant-based diet or a seed-based diet, why aren't more doctors promoting this actively?
Well, this can become a very controversial topic very quickly. A lot of the people who are in my field in the field of holistic practitioners, many of them feel that one of the reasons why is that their education base, the education that they receive when they're in colleges and going to their medical universities, is that they're so trained on how pharmaceuticals can work with disease rather than changing the diet. We're also finding that some of those programs or some of the doctors have not actually been trained through what we call an integrative nutrition program. So some of them haven't even been properly educated on effective ways of using nutrition to affect body chemistry and body function. And that's what we're seeing, in our field, like the difference between the way we're educated versus the difference in the way that the medical community is educated. And I think that proves to be a slight disconnect over time. So, and I think that's why there's, 2 sides to this. People go, oh, well, you're holistic, oh, you're medical, and then, but it does become controversial at times too. So, but I think that's why. I don't think that there are educational programs that base is not there of nutrition. Like, do they know, natural healing remedies? Do they know plants that can create healing? Do they know the medicinal qualities of lavender or frankincense? Or do they know the effect of cauliflower and garlic on the body, or how milk thistle affects liver function? And when you ask a medical doctor that, sometimes they don't know that. But if you ask a holistic practitioner that, they're like, oh, absolutely, I can tell you 27 uses for, milk thistle, and I can tell you, 10 things that cranberries can do for the human body.
I loved her analogy about pregnant mothers and how careful we are, and then once the babies are born, pretty much moms kind of eat whatever they want to, too. We talked about the kids, raising them up, but moms go back to eating kind of whatever, eating, too.
Right.
My hope is that as we educate people about healthy eating, that we also put pressure on the medical world to become more educated about the benefits of holistic treatments.
Well, that's what she's talking about, and what we will see, I think, as we continue with more episodes of this podcast, what we're going to learn is that there are doctors out there.
Oh, yeah.
Who are very inclined to look at their practice of medicine from a holistic standpoint. Mm-hmm. But I think we can safely say, without being too damning, that the reality is that there are not enough of them.
Yes.
To take that point of view. And that's, we're not talking about eliminating, medical practice as we know it. We're talking about
partnering.
Yes, partnering and enriching it.
Yes.
With things that are tried and true, that go back for generations. Mm-hmm. She was talking about the use of, what was it, lavender?
And milk thistle. I mean, I had an experience. I had a Shih Tzu who was 13 years old who was experiencing some liver damage, and they were going to put her to sleep. And in my mind, I just didn't have peace with it. And so I told them, just run fluids through her. I did some research, and that's when I found out about milk thistle. There's a company that actually makes it particularly for canines, the dosage that they need and the amount. And I used that in liquid. I gave it to her in a syringe, and I found that it did help her. She because the liver regenerates itself. Mm-hmm. That's one organ that can completely regenerate itself. And so with medication, and that she made a recovery out of that, and she lived another 9 months, and they said she looked great. Wow. At that time, then she turned 14. So, she was older anyway. But I just thought, wow, had I not taken the time to do a little research, I wouldn't have bought her more time. And so if my, pet baby is that important to me, how much more important are our bodies? And I'm hoping that people are inspired by the possibilities. And even if it just helps you ask certain questions when you go into your doctor's appointment.
Right.
I think those are the types of things that may help other practitioners who may not be on the holistic course maybe do some more research themselves.
Hopefully so.
Yeah.
Hopefully so.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear more. Let's get back to it.
The Healthy Soul Podcast.
There's so many mixed messages that are out there, and how do people know what to believe when it comes to looking at foods that heal the body versus foods that harm the body? The biggest fight that we see in our field right now is not actually a food per se, but a drink, and that's coffee that contains caffeine. Caffeine has been such a big buzzword right now in our community because you have certain people stating that caffeine is actually healthy for the human body, but yet in our realm, we only see the negative drawbacks of how caffeine alters body chemistry, and none of it's for the positive. So that's just one thing, that creates. There's so many mixed messages about that out there in the media. And again, how does the general public, who hasn't been through all the education that we've been through, how do they make an informed decision?
Yeah. Well,
what is good versus what is not good.
Well, that dovetails right into my my next set of questions. Dr. Bastian. What do you suggest for consumers who realize that, they need to make a change in their diet, and that what you're talking about today, following a plant-based diet makes sense, but they don't really know where to start? What do you suggest for them?
Well, the first thing I always tell the people that come to me about is I always have them list their symptoms. What is it about their physical body that is creating issues for them? And usually what we do is try to work backwards. Based on those symptoms, we look at the causes of those symptoms. What is causing that symptom to appear that they're having an issue with? And usually, it's tough because we see so many different clients with what we work with. But even for, let's just say, a chronic inflammation issue that they have, or, they have joint pain, which is, one of the big ones. What we try to do is, okay, what are you eating currently right now? Well, let's look at foods that we know biochemically will alter your body's chemistry so that we can reduce inflammation. And that's usually where we start. And then we also take a list of foods that we know cause inflammation and try to pull them out of that person's diet. Okay, let's not eat that anymore because we know long-term that's going to create an issue in the body. And what we try to do is alter the diet so that with what they eat, we can minimize some of the side effects of some of the foods that they're eating. So that's usually where they start. If they're not working with a practitioner and they want to do it on their own, usually what I have them do is there's a lot of books out there that can help. There are a lot of resources out there. And usually what I try to have them start with is really look at, some of the books where they say foods that heal and foods that harm. And usually most of them are pretty up to date. But again, they're all about plants and vegetables. So you won't find anything in there that says steak will help cure, your inflammation disease. You won't find them, unfortunately. Nothing against cows or anything, but that's where the medical research is at.
A lot of people I've talked to through the years who are making the transition to a plant-based diet talk about how difficult it is to walk away from dairy products, cheese in particular. So many Americans rely on cheese to add flavor and texture to so many dishes. And then a lot of people also feel that they have to drink milk or they have to eat ice cream.
One of the easiest things we try to tell people is to make effective substitutions. So if they feel that they can't pull milk out of their diet, what we try to do is, okay, well, instead of dairy milk, why not try almond milk or rice milk? And there's a lot of other varieties of milk out there that are non-dairy. But again, you still have that milk feel, that milk flavor. You can still put it in your smoothies and your oatmeal or things that you so choose to eat. But again, you're moving away from the dairy aspect of, the animal-based product. And then for the people who need that cheese where it adds the texture or the flavor, what we try to offer is effective substitutions. One of the things I try to teach my clients, and I actually do these cooking classes, is the use of spices and how to use different spices to totally change the flavor of any one dish, or to add nuts to a dish. One of the things I like to do is I teach my clients how to make a stir fry, but 20 different varieties of stir fry. Mm-hmm. Same vegetable base, but between adding walnuts or adding coconut flakes or adding, a lime spice or a fajita mix, you can totally change that flavor in less than 5 seconds. And it totally changes the flavor and the texture of the dish as well. And that's what we try to offer as the education piece for people who are making this. And for some, it is a traumatic change when they want to move away from the animal protein. But some are doing it for a dietary need, or they just found out they're lactose intolerant, or they're battling Lyme disease and they're trying to pull all animal protein out of their diet. So that's the education piece we try to offer, that there are effective ways of substituting other foods for the things that we have grown comfortable with, whether it be our culture or our lifestyle or how we were raised. One of my largest clientele that I work with are people who have gone gluten-free, or people who need to go gluten-free due to Hashimoto's, or they're also fighting Lyme. We have found that going gluten-free also helps all of those who are suffering from Lyme disease as well. And 5 years ago, I just look at the past 5 years. The past 5 years, going gluten-free was a very difficult thing to do. Even in restaurants, eating out was almost impossible. Now, when you go shopping at the grocery store or go out to a restaurant, it is so much easier to find gluten-free foods for the population who is choosing to eliminate that from their diet, whether by a health need and or by personal choice because they just feel better. The vegan and vegetarian cookbook selection right now is there's millions of things that you can access easily, even online. And one of the largest trends that I have seen and actually teach is now that people can make smoothies if they buy a Vitamix machine, it is so easy to get health and nutrition by making smoothies or making your own ice cream or making your own soups. And I have found that trend alone has saved many clients a lot of health issues because they've switched to that type of lifestyle.
What is your favorite smoothie?
My favorite smoothie? My favorite one is one where I call my hormone balancing smoothie that actually tastes, and this is really unhealthy, it tastes like a Reese's peanut butter cup, but there's absolutely no peanut butter and no chocolate in the entire smoothie.
Wow.
It's actually on my website. I actually have the recipe on my website.
Okay.
But literally, it is made with dates, cashews, almond milk, raw cacao powder, which all my clients know I pronounce it cacao, so people know how to spell it. And I also add usually some maca powder or ashwagandha, pending, what hormone state I'm in or how much I'm running, because I'm also a runner. So, but that is my absolute favorite smoothie. I always have 5 or 6 of those ready to go in the freezer, because I'll make a whole blender of that smoothie and then I freeze it so I can take a cup out and grab it when I go if I'm in a hurry. But that is my absolute favorite smoothie, and I make that one all the time. My children, on the other hand, their favorite is the pineapple strawberries.
Well, who doesn't love fruit smoothies? I mean, you can't go wrong with that. But I agree with you, kids. Glad to know that we have those options. Great info she shared, Dave. Thanks so much for that interview with Dr. Boston.
Oh, yeah, it was great. Yeah. Enjoyed it.
The Healthy Soul Podcast is being presented by independent distributors of Rain International, the world leader in seed nutrition. Maker of Soul, a naturally delicious 2-ounce drink packed with the powerful antioxidants found in non-GMO seeds. Soul, pure wellness.
Now here's Atlanta, Georgia-based Dr. Ted Nicholson, emergency medicine specialist, with more about Soul and why he endorses and uses it.
Soul is fantastic. This thing goes to the very cell and helps the cell to be healthy. And as you have a healthy cell, of course, there's healthy tissues. If you have healthy tissues, there's healthy organs. Healthy organs that make healthy organ system. And a healthy organ system is a healthy human being. Soul is fantastic. I can't wait to tell individuals about it. I can't wait to help individuals to obtain it, because I want individuals to be as healthy as I am trying to be.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you've gotten great information that you can now use in everyday living so that we can live thinking more consciously about what we put in our bodies in this quest for healthy living through foods that heal. The Healthy Soul Podcast is produced by David Person, engineered by Damian Malone, production administration by Sylvia Wilson, post-production assistance by Jeremy Person. Interviews are recorded in the studios of Praise 90.1 FM WJOU in Huntsville, Alabama. Music heard on the Healthy Soul Podcast was produced by David Person. The executive producer of the Healthy Soul Podcast is Hallbrook Polite. Check out the Healthy Soul Podcast page on Facebook for future episodes of this podcast and for updates. You can also find out more about Soul and Rain International on the web at www.lifeconcentrated.com. I'm Janette Smith. Remember, keep your soul healthy.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not those of Rain International and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Rain International. Perspectives and testimonies given during this podcast are those of the speakers and not Rain International.